right, Piers, trust me. Forget the ball, hit the ground 3 inches behind it.
You're having a laugh, aren't you?
Nope.
Really? Hit there,
Yep.
not the ball.
Nope.
I'm trying to
Forget
hit the ball,
ball.
aren't I? Still made it on the green.
That was better than normal pace, actually, that was. Hi guys, welcome to this week's Impact Show. You're watching me and my golf, and today we're going to show you guys how to improve your short game by duffing your chips. Let's take charge of your game.
Apologies, by the way, Silverstone racetrack just over there, it's a bit loud.
So thanks for joining us here at Whittlebury Park Golf Club. We have a very special guest today. We have James Ridyard, PGA coach and short game specialist and co-owner of Short Game Secrets, the video series. James, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Good to see you.
It's great to have you on the show, and we are talking all about chipping today, which I'm sure myself and Piers can need some help with, as well as you guys, hopefully. Now, James, you've done, you work on tour with a lot of great golfers,
Yep.
but you've also done a lot of research on short game and chipping. What are the findings that you've got from this research? And
They're pretty deep, right? So the body of work goes back 30, 40 years with research into the yips, players' struggles in putting and short game. And there is certainly commonalities amongst players that can't chip and pitch very well. Don't want to give the whole story away,
Yep.
but the pattern would typically go down to the concept at its core as to what a player's actually trying to do with the club and ball. I think again it's this part of the game, and it's certainly an area where you'll see more damaging mishits. Perhaps you can't duff it 30 yards down the fairway and pick up your next one. You duff it 30 yards here, you're in trouble, right? So you're chipping back. And I think that kind of leads into a pressure situation where players are trying to find strike all the time. And in the process of trying to find strike all the time, they actually go down an avenue that makes it much harder to strike the ball.
yeah,
So you end up in that kind of a catch-22 or a vicious cycle to actually try and produce the results you want, and you end up going way down that rabbit hole and end up in a spot where you can't chip at all.
so I think it's fair to say that the majority of golfers have a poor concept of what they're trying to do, and that then
100%.
leads to, obviously, it comes out in the technique, and then
Yeah.
it makes it a lot harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And this is something, obviously, that you've seen, something that we see all the time, Piers, just getting the right image in their minds to know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So what are the patterns that you see? And just interesting to talk about quickly is, do you think a lot of the concept of what they're thinking is potentially from old coaching? Which is a dangerous question, this is. Sorry, I just threw that one on you.
100% yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's our fault.
It's all our faults.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that every person, maybe that's a teacher or instructor that watches this, will see what I'm going to say and admit and hold their hands up and say, I've taught that before.
Yeah.
Done that before.
Because I've taught it before. 100%, no doubt about it. Because it's the only solution that we were maybe told when we were growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, research-wise, people haven't really measured to a great degree what players are really doing.
Yeah.
They're chipping and pitching, but that's something that's catching up now with full swing. And the patterns we see are patterns we taught to players to make them better and end up making them worse. 100%.
Should we go through them?
Let's
Okay,
see a few of these.
let's talk through these patterns then, and I'm sure these are going to make a lot of sense to the guys and think, well, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm supposed to do this, aren't I?
Yeah, well, I think, and this is going to sound absolutely bonkers to some people, but the number one problem I have conceptually is that people are trying to hit the ball. Right?
What?
And, I know, doesn't it sound ridiculous? But their focus becomes so entirely on the ball, in very much the same way as a 7-iron, and that just doesn't work over here. Okay, so with a 7-iron, for example, what kind of attack angle are we looking for? Typically,
5, 6.
5, 6. Well, I'll say we'll get 5 or 6, 7, maybe even 8 with this, but you're trying to actually bottom out in a different place.
Okay.
Right, with a 7-iron, where are you trying to actually bottom out?
After the ball.
Yeah.
Up here somewhere after the golf ball, right? So it becomes a downwards and through. With chipping, and we're going to go back to that lesson we all had when we were 10 years old, the ball was back, the shaft was forwards, and we were taught to strike down and through the golf ball. All right, now that gives you a margin for error that is minuscule. You produce a attack angle that's probably too steep, a loft that's too low, and a club that's too sharp. All right, so there is zero margin for error in there. So conceptually, right off the bat, this club is not designed to be played in the same way as a 7-iron. It's designed to interact with the ground, and that becomes the focus. So the movement patterns that creates are one where the force is applied downwards and forwards for way too long, and it's night and day between a good chipper and a bad chipper.
So what are the patterns then that we see that the bad chippers do?
Well, it goes right from setup a lot of the time. You end up in this position just in the effort to try and get ball then turf. versus a good chipper. Now, not to say you can't chip well from back there, but because you can.
Yes.
But it does take a skill level, and you're trying to produce a certain kind of shot, something a bit lower, maybe releasing out a little bit.
Maybe like Phil.
Like Phil
A little bit like
we
Phil.
spoke about that off camera because he obviously is one of the best.
It probably has the greatest level of motor control out of every tour player you could ever stick up there on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Right, he is phenomenal. So why you would try and choose to do something he does with the greatest respect to him is beyond me.
Yeah. There we go.
So, ball too far back, handle too far forward, producing an attack that may not be too steep, but certainly bottoms out too far ahead of the ball and too far under the ground.
Yeah.
All right, so we're talking about a height of low point issue as well.
Yeah.
This club wants to descend to a point that's way underneath the turf versus something that's played a little bit further forwards, has slightly different movement patterns, will want to bottom out somewhere closer to the surface of the other. So you have that bigger margin, you can't go as wrong.
Yeah. That makes total sense. So that's obviously, I mean, when we come into the setup, obviously, as far as golf swing is concerned, or the movement, I mean, you know, how the loft is created throughout the golf swing, that's obviously an issue as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can end up in wrist positions, get in all kinds of trouble. I mean, when I break it down as a lesson for somebody, I'll try and position them on the way back somewhere that's manageable. Okay. You can get into all kinds of trouble before you even start your downswing with these shots because you don't have the time that you have in a full swing to recover and adjust. So you can stick yourself on a shot, this is like 15, 20 yards. You can put yourself in a spot here that is unrecoverable unless you're in that top 0.001% of golfers. So before you even start your downswing and before you've even thought about what you're going to try and do with the club, you're dead in the water.
Yeah.
No, so do you want a quick tip on that, a quick hint?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, please do. So what we're saying, obviously, the backswing obviously is crucial on this then, yes?
Yep, 100%. So there are three things I could choose. I'm going to give you one.
Yeah.
And that would be de-lofting on the way back. And I'm not talking de-lofting or rotating this way. That's not really de-lofting. It's kind of a closing. A de-lofting is more this.
Yeah.
All right, so I guarantee you that this is something that an awful lot of amateur golfers will work on throughout the backswing, is to try and flex or bow this wrist.
Yeah.
To try and stop the ball peeling away to the right.
Yeah.
Improve the pivot, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But with short game, it puts the club in this position. And yes, you can manage it, but you have to be really, really good to do it.
Just go into that there for me if you can. So just actually swing back and we'll just show the people that so you can see exactly that. So this wrist here has, as you say, you're going to that bowed position and that strengthens the club face.
Yeah.
And if very difficult from there.
If I was to pivot or I didn't have time to undo that, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And then it comes to the point where at what rate do I undo it? If I undo it too quick, I'm popping it up. Mm-hmm. If I don't do enough, I might strike it okay, but it's gone on me. I can't control the loft. Okay. So I've got a club that doesn't want to interact with the ground and the loft is too variable.
Okay.
So it's safe to say we really want to create a very simple backswing that's not going to really, especially for the guys at home who aren't practicing as much as Phil and haven't got the skill level, we want to produce a simple motion that requires as little compensation on the way down as possible so they can deliver this club in a good manner and interact with the ground. That's key, isn't it?
Exactly. Simplicity of backswing to then make a more simple downswing requires less effort.
Okay.
As soon as you put the club in this position, if you were to add some wrist cock to it, you've got an awful lot of work to do in a very short space of time. And that's where things start to go wrong.
And look, that's so common for us as coaches. We go, yeah, we see that a lot. So obviously that's the problem. What's the kind of solution for that? How can we work around that?
Don't do it.
There we go. Don't go. It's simple. All right. See you next week.
That's a wrap. Right. So I mentioned this one.
Yeah.
Right. So the solution there would be to try and make sure you maintain some degree of cup in the wrist. Don't let it go beyond flat or zero. Okay. Your anatomical zero is there, right? Never into that position. Players will go that way. Okay, they're always going to move that way on the backswing, but the point is don't do it too long. Yeah. Okay, a little bit of movement, fine, but you're trying to keep a little bit of cup, a little bit of extension in the wrist. Okay, if I was just to turn back to the golf ball and do nothing else, that would position my shaft here. Okay. All right, so I'm delivering a little bit more loft. I've got a little bit less chance of digging into the ground. Okay.
So it's almost like if you were to get a banana and put a banana in the back of your wrist, you're not going to change the shape of that banana almost.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so let's actually watch you play a couple if we can actually, because what I want people to look at now is when you hit these shots is to notice the ground.
The great thing about this, excuse the cars in the background, Silverstone's just over there. The great thing about this as well, James, your intention is the ground. You're hitting the ground, and that was a little bit, we can see here, that was a little bit before the golf ball, but you still produced a decent shot, and that's ultimately for the guys, the handicappers out there. If they can hit a bad shot and it still be okay, then that is the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you start to get into the conversation with players. How big can you make the margin? You know, as an exercise, grab a tee, drag a line into the ground. So that line is 2.5, 3 inches behind the centre of the golf ball. And see how far behind the ball you can actually get the club to contact the ground and still get a result. We'll give that a go, I guess.
And that is scary for anyone who's watching this now and seeing that line there, and you're saying, what? You're going to hit that?
It exposes you very quickly.
Yeah.
Right, if your club is coming from too great a height or you're too de-lofted, you're going to hit this line and the club's going to stop and the ball's going to go nowhere.
Okay.
Obviously, I've got the utmost confidence.
Let's see you do it.
Actually, aim at the hole this time as well.
Amazing.
So you can see the grass standing up here.
Yeah.
All the way through to the golf ball. So it's a good 2.5, 3 inches behind. It's still popped up and it's finished 2 feet from the cup.
It was better than the other one.
It was better than the other one, but I didn't aim on the first one.
There we go. And yeah, I mean, look, I think that. So the thing is, for here, anyone who's sort of watching this now, the mindset for them has got to change a little bit, and they've got to question themselves on what they are doing. I suppose if you get a client in, that's all you're trying to do, isn't it? You're trying to open their mind to. They're really loud over here, aren't they?
They are very loud.
Sort them out a bit. You're trying to open their mind to the fact it needs to be different. That's the biggest job for you.
Yeah, but they have to see the evidence that
Yeah,
it can work,
of course.
right? I can't stand there and say to you as my student, say, go on, just hit the ground back there.
Yeah.
Trust me. You have to be able to stand there, demonstrate it, and once you start to see it, and then once they start to get themselves in a position where they can do it, they'll start to believe in that. And that frees you up so much around the greens. There becomes much less pressure on the outcome. Because I've got this big area to land the club and the ball's still going to fly okay. It might spin differently, it might launch differently, but the outcome of the end product is typically very similar.
Yeah. So I think it's a good thing for the guys to focus on, as you said, hitting the ground, exercise, try and hit it 3 inches behind the golf ball, see what happens, but ultimately then it's about being able to produce the technique that allows you to do that by not creating too much of this bowing in the lead wrist and too much shaft lean at impact. But it starts with the intention of actually what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. If the intention's off, then everything else is going to follow.
Exactly.
I'll give you one more downstream drill. If that's
Yeah,
all right.
let's do one more. Let's get
another
one out there. Perfect.
All right, so this is a little scary. I'm going to go one-handed,
Yeah.
right hand only. When you do this drill, make sure that your hand is on the same part of the grip it normally would be, so don't grip up to the top, it makes it too long. Normal grip, right hand only, other hand behind the back. And if you can do this, chances are you're a very good chipper.
Okay.
If you can't do it, you should start to identify very quickly what's going on.
Very nice.
All right, so your viewers can pause that, rewind it,
Yeah.
have a look and see what they identify as different in there.
Yeah.
For you to execute that correctly, there's 2 or 3 ingredients that need to be in there. All right, first of all, your body needs to do a good job. Okay, and secondly, and I'll give you a big clue here, this arm needs to behave itself.
Okay. And you can see when you hit that one there as well, the golf ball actually stopped quite quickly, which is good because this leads us into a question. So we always like to ask the guys on the Impact Show, a question so they can comment down below. So, question. Off you go.
Okay, so the question is, what is the biggest contributor to spin? Is it attack angle, dynamic loft, spin loft, quality of contact?
Okay, multiple choice there.
one of
Post
those
that
four?
down below and we'll pin the person who gets it correct to the top of the post here.
Superb. Okay, so look, what we're going to do, James, thank you so much for this because I really want people to watch this now and just sort of, as I said, open their mind to it could be different to what they've been used to for maybe 20 years of chipping. Watching Phil is fantastic, he does a great job, but this is a more conventional way for a lot of golfers to actually hit their golf shots.
It's more idiot proof.
Idiot proof, and we're all idiots here.
We all need some of that.
We all need the help that we can get. So actually
We
we're
do.
doing some more content with James as well. We're actually going to get Andy going through maybe a 40 or 50 yard pitch and actually go through some of the numbers and see what sort of numbers we're getting. And James is probably going to give you a little bit of a lesson, Andy.
Hopefully, maybe. I need a little bit of help.
Make sure you check that out.